Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Well, I'm glad I put a log on the fire this morning. That wind's howling over Ball Knob this morning above the cabin. Coming at you here from western North Carolina in Ashe County, where the little cabin there on Quiet Place has been a refuge from many a storm. Steve Fielder here with the Gone to the Dogs podcast. We are mighty happy to be with you again. Glad to see many of you out there trucking up and down the highways, heading to work this morning. Maybe you just stumbled into the kitchen and poured your first cup of joe. I've got my coffee here. A little tip here that you might want to write down if you have an Ollie's in your neighborhood. Good stuff cheap, I believe is their motto. It's like what Big Lots used to be, I think, back in the early days. And it's really a neat little store there. But I go in there and buy pods for my Keurig coffee maker, a single cup at a time. That's the way Ella and I like it. And I can get 75 pods for $20. And if you'll compare that to the other places, Walmart, Target, the grocery store, you'll see that's a pretty good buy. I get the medium blend. Now you can get a dark roast if you like, medium roast, I should say. And man, it's good. Of course, I'm not weaned yet. I like a little flavor in my coffee. I've tried to drink black coffee over the years, and that bitterness and sour taste to it just never did resonate with me. So I put a little hazelnut creamer in mine. All the guys at White River know that bottle of hazelnut in there belongs to me. Of course, I'm more than willing to share it, and I think a few of them sneak around and take a shot or two. But anyway, coffee in the mornings, man, it's the magic elixir. And get your day going, get your motor running. And so anyway, that's not a commercial for Ollie's. I wish I had them as a sponsor. I'm sure they got pretty deep pockets and could provide some more gas money for running up and down the roads, doing podcasts and following these old hounds around. Once again, Steve Fielder here. Been with the W Hunting Supply Network now for about, I believe this will be the 205th episode of Gone to the Dogs, and I'm mighty happy to be with you today. As you know, the UKC World Hunt is in our rearview mirror now. I want to congratulate handler and co-owner John Strickland for winning the World Championship with a pup out of Rackham Willie, J.R. Gray's great stud dog and two-time world champion. This time it's little Ann. She won the Tournament Champions. Now she's won the World Championship, and she's co-owned by Ashley Oxendine and Doug Galbraith and my good buddy Randy Smith. So congratulations to the GOAT, John Strickland, for his win in the recent UKC World Coonhound Championship at Portland, Indiana. I understand those folks, Mr. Tappy and company there at Portland, did a great job with the World Hunt. I talked to my friend Lee Kearns yesterday. He had gone up to show his walker dog and said there was a strong entry. I think he said somewhere around 170 dogs in the show. And of course, that reminds me of looking back to Columbia City, Indiana in 1985, when we held the very first UKC World Bench Show Championship. And it was won by a plot dog, a fellow named Danny Peoples, and a plot named Smokin' Joe won that very first show. And of course, there's been many, many of them since. And anyway, want to congratulate Amy McDonald with a blue tick that was crowned the world champion this year. As we talk about UKC, some big news in the coonhound world this week as UKC, United Kennel Club, for those of you who may not be familiar with the initials, the oldest registry of coonhounds in the country, have decided that they are going to put to rest for the final time their house publication, house organ called Coonhound Bloodlines. Many of you have been subscribers of Coonhound Bloodlines over the years. I had the privilege of serving as the magazine's editor for a time while I was at UKC, and always was very closely associated with that magazine in each of the years that I was there, from 1983 through 1998. UKC's old house organ was simply called Bloodlines. And then after Fred Miller purchased the registry in 1973, he devised the Coonhound Bloodlines as a separate magazine, and I worked very closely with that magazine all the way through. I was reminiscing the other day and recall that in some issues I had as many as 20,000 words in print on a single issue of the magazine. But in those days, we were building Coonhound Bloodlines from 3,000 subscribers, and it seemed like almost an impossible task, because the two magazines that were in effect at that, or being published at that time for coon hunters, that being Full Cry and the American Cooner, each had about 30,000 subscribers. So here we were with 3,000. Coonhound Bloodlines was mainly a rule book, if you will, with UKC information and a place for the registry to announce new policies, changes, and so forth. So there wasn't much to it. I got a cover with my plot dog Fancy back in those in the 1970s, before I went to UKC. But anyway, we made a commitment while I was there that we were going to build that magazine into a first-class publication. There were a couple things, couple of ideas that came to me. One was involving the events. At that time, clubs were required to advertise their upcoming events in one of the Coonhound publications, and there were three at that time: Coonhound Bloodlines, Full Cry, and American Cooner. And so the clubs would buy a quarter-page ad, but they weren't buying them in Coonhound Bloodlines. They were buying them in American Cooner mainly, and also Full Cry. As you can imagine, they were getting a lot more bang for their bucks with 30,000 subscribers compared to 3,000. So anyway, one of the things that I went to Fred Miller with was an idea to take all the information that the club was sending us when they applied for their license and to publish that information free in the back of Coonhound Bloodlines. Fred was afraid that we would lose entries at our events and was reluctant to do that. And it took almost, I think, pretty close to 3 years to convince him, but we did eventually do that and put the upcoming events listing in Coonhound Bloodlines. Along with that, we began to build special breed issues. We would have a special issue for each of the 6 Coonhound breeds. That's how many we had at that time. And we would invite the fanciers of those breeds to buy ads, and we would publish stories and so forth, and those became very, very popular. And I know that collectors today still cherish those old back issues of their breed. I know I was just watching on Facebook here this week as people were talking about that. But anyway, I can remember a party that we had there in UKC when our subscribers list rose to 20,000. I can't remember for sure exactly how big the magazine did get, but I know that we were publishing some issues that were 300 pages or more. And I had a lot of fun writing product reviews in those issues and digging back into the history of the breeds and writing articles about, historic dogs for each of those breed issues. I very much enjoyed working with Coonhound Bloodlines and working with the staff there, and it was a big time. We started a contest for the Masters of Hounds out there that UKC would appoint to officiate the events at that time, and it was called Winner's Choice. And we had a Blount custom-built dog box, which Mark Blount was the pioneer in building those kinds of factory-made, so to speak, boxes. And at that time, the Sunburst Eagle 2 was the Cadillac or the premier light for coon hunters, built by Jim Gatton over in Ohio, Sunburst Light Corporation. So what we did is we put up a dog box and a light, and the UKC official, Master Hounds, bench show judge, field rep, whatever, that turned in the most subscriptions to Coonhound Bloodlines was declared the winner, and they had the choice of the light or the dog box. And that played off the idea that Coonhound Bloodlines was the winner's choice of magazines. Very successful campaign. We sold a lot of subscriptions that way. And so, Coonhound Bloodlines continued to build, as I said. Then along came Al Gore, bless his heart, and when he invented the internet. Chuckle. People started turning more to online advertising. And a magazine has to have advertisers in order to survive. It needs subscribers, and it needs advertisers. As those advertisers began to display their dogs and products and so forth free online, in many cases, the number of ads decreased considerably. And that combined with the rising cost of printing, paper, ink, the overhead, the whole thing was a perfect storm that has greatly reduced the importance or the popularity of print media nowadays. And as we know, American Cooner and Full Cry bit the dust a couple years ago, and Full Cry was resurrected by Jason and Danny Doobie out in Oregon, and they've been publishing that magazine. But American Cooner fell by the wayside, as did apparently now Coonhound Bloodlines. The registry has announced that they are going to continue to publish a magazine called American Field. American Field has long been a publication serving the bird dog fancy, and headquartered in Chicago. And when I came aboard UKC, Fred Miller told me that he had a handshake deal to buy American Field. Well, that didn't materialize while I was at UKC. I think the idea of the family that owned the American Field didn't want to move all their employees to Michigan. And so Fred honored that and just kind of backed out of the deal, and nothing happened. But however, present ownership or previous ownership, I don't know which, decided to buy American Field, and they're publishing that magazine still. But what they're going to do apparently is publish 4 issues a year, quarterly, according to the seasons: summer, spring, fall, and winter. And those that have coonhound bloodline subscriptions are somehow going to be integrated into a subscription with American Field. And I don't have all the specific it's easy for me to say details there, but that's what it is. I do have a copy here of American Field, and I spoke at Autumn Oaks with Chris Ingram, I believe, who is working with that publication, and assures me that there'll be a good amount of coonhound information. But the magazine that he gave me at Autumn Oaks is a very slick publication. Looks like something you pick up off the magazine rack at Barnes & Noble or Books A Million. It for my standpoint, there's very little hound information in there. I did see an article on deer hunting with hounds. I saw an article on beagling, and I did see an article about squirrel hunting with the Siberian Leikas or Lykas, whatever they're called. But anyway, they do. I heard by the rumor mill that the next issue will have at least a quarter of the editorial be devoted to coonhounds. So we'll see. And time marches on. I also noted recently, and everybody around the coonhound world's been talking, especially posting on social media, about their dissatisfaction with the registration department at UKC. And it primarily stems from papers that are late in coming back and a lack of communication. I just transferred the ownership of this plot pup that I have. We call him Ghost. And I didn't sell my interest in him, but I did take on 2 partners in the ownership, and being my longtime partner, Mark Miller, and his neighbor and friend and hunting buddy, Cody Fox, there in Taylorsville, North Carolina. The 3 of us now own Ghost. So I needed to send the transfer in, and I tried the online system, and it's simple. It's very simple. One of the things that I did was I filled out the application, which UKC, as you know, has condensed the paperwork into one trifold document. On the front is the normal look of a registration certificate, and you open it up, and there's the bill of sale portion, and then the other third is the pedigree. And I get the 4-generation pedigree. I think it costs me, with regular mailing or whatever, about $34 to do the transfer. anyway, that was a fairly easy deal. I had to take a picture of the bill of sale portion that I'd filled out. I messaged that to the new partner who is the first signatory on the dog, and to have him sign. And then he, of course, messaged that back to me, and I just dragged and dropped that onto the program that UKC's provided, and away it went. So I'm sitting here waiting to get a reply that's only been gone about a week now, or 4 or 5 days. So I don't know exactly how fast that's going to work for me. I think they predict a couple of weeks. But that being said, I see an announcement that was made on September 17th of 2025 that says basically this: behind the scenes, we've been focusing on prompt service and realigning our team to respond faster and serve you better. This includes expanding our leadership team in the customer support and registration department. I'll pause right here and say applause, applause. You definitely need more help. Okay, let's stop right here just a second. I had to take a slurp of that good old coffee shop coffee from Ollie's there. It's kind of like my buddy Nubbin Moore says, that old Kovic has got me, I guess. Anyway, the announcement said, working in lockstep with longtime Director of Customer Support and Registration, Taylor Armstrong. Hey, Taylor. Taylor's a good person. I really always enjoy seeing Taylor at the events. And UKC is saying, meet the new registration manager, Parker Radcliffe, and the new manager of quality assurance, Aiden Sorensen. They're leaning in to move UKC forward. That term leaning in is very familiar to me because my pastor uses it quite often. When he has something really important he wants to say, he'll say, now lean in. Anyway, apparently there's a new customer support. No, he's not new. He's been with UKC for over a year. Chaz Weatherford is the customer support manager. And I did not meet him at Autumn Oaks in 2024, as this article says. But UKC says that he has a deep knowledge of customers and registration. He's known for calm leadership and practical approach. Chaz is steady, trusted presence for both staff and customers. I don't doubt that at all. But sometimes extreme times calls for extreme measures, and people are getting really, really upset out there as I read their posts on social media about the delays and lack of communication. Anyway, Parker, who is the new registration manager, he is an 8-year military veteran. He was a sergeant in the Marines. He served 6+ years as a team leader for a nationwide warehousing facility, and spent some time as a manager at UPS and Harley Davidson. Vroom, vroom. So I guess he believes in honesty, doing the right thing, and has no patience for excuses. Okay, well, that sounds like you're a good fit, Parker, because your coon hunting clients out there are running out of patience themselves. So anyway, he was at Autumn Oaks. Apparently, I did not see Parker, or if I did, I did not recognize who he was, or did not have the opportunity to talk to him. He likes to spend free time in the woods. It doesn't say anything about with hounds, and on the water and on the golf course. He and our great president have something in common there. Parker and his wife Carissa are expecting their first child just a few days after posting of this notice. Well, congratulations, Parker and Carissa, and welcome to the UKC family. And then there's also an announcement about the addition of Aiden Sorensen. And Aiden has a background in team management and workflow. Hey, you sound like the right guy for the job. He's skilled in data analysis. It's being used to improve the internal processes that create log jams during high volume times. Anyway, you can go online to the UKC website and read all of this. I'm sure they want to present these new hires in the best possible light, and we're going to be back here watching and seeing what these guys are bringing to the table and how they're going to take our registry, United Kennel Club, forward. I certainly hope and wish them very best of success. Been a UKC man as long as I can remember. Got the paper right here in my office of the first UKC registered plot that my father purchased in 1950. I say purchased, he traded a .22 rifle for in 1954. And her paperwork, a registration certificate, appears on the cover of my book, Gone to the Dogs, A Coon Hunter's Journey. So I've been a UKC man for a long time, wish UKC nothing but the best. But hey guys, step up your game, and it looks like you're taking steps to do that, and I applaud you. When I was at PKC and at UKC, let's back up. When I was at PKC and AKC, I wrote for American Cooner Magazine. I would have a usual, at least one column in there, and then I would do articles later on about famous dogs of history, hunters, so forth. But one of the things that I did each month that created quite a following was my Bubba Back Home stories. Now, Bubba was a guy that lived back in the hills back home where I come from in the mountains of West Virginia. And he got into all kinds of situations, and meant to be a humorous piece for sure. I would search out, good stories that I could find. Some of them I devised myself, and those were probably the less funny ones. But anyway, that Ollie's coffee is backing up on me this morning. Anyway, I thought I'd share with you a little excerpt here of what Bubba Back Home was like. My old buddy Bubba back home in the hills went down to the county seat to borrow a phone to call the airline that was going to take him on his first flight, a vacation to Kentucky to see the Ark. Now, on my Miss Ella and I's recent trip up to Richmond, Indiana, as we were traveling south I believe we were south of Cincinnati going toward Lexington, I saw the exit for the Ark. Somebody has reconstructed Noah's Ark to full scale, and I want to see that sometime. Didn't have time. But anyway, Bubba wanted to see firsthand how Noah was able to keep the jackrabbits to only 2 on the trip, 2 of each species. He called the airline counter, or customer service desk, I should say, and asked if he could bring old Bootjack, his coonhound, along on this trip. Sure, the airline representative said, as long as you provide your own kennel. The representative explained that the kennel needed to be large enough for the dog to stand up, sit down, turn around, and roll over. Bubba howled into the phone. Bubba could get quite vocal. I'll never be able to teach him all that by tomorrow. That was Bubba. He had an interesting perspective on life. And when the policeman stopped him and asked for his ID, Bubba showed him his belt buckle. One time Bubba was on the way down to the Southern 500 in Darlington, and he and Rufus, his intellectually challenged sidekick there, had a cooler in the back seat of the convertible, and they were reaching around and popping a cap every once in a while on a cold one. And that South Carolina state trooper pulled him over, and Bubba said, "Quick, Rufus, peel one of those labels off that bud and slap it on your forehead." Rufus looked at him like, "What?" But anyway, that's what they did. And when the policeman walked up, and he said, "Sir, have you boys been drinking? I noticed you've been weaving on the highway." And Bubba pointed to the beer bottle label on his forehead, and he said, "Drinking? No, sir. We on the patch." All right, that's enough dad jokes, Bubba jokes, whatever kind of jokes. Back talking about UKC and about Coonhound bloodlines and all of that, it was 43 years ago, 1983, that I went to work at UKC. Man, that has been a long time, but man, it went by like the flash of a pan. It really did. It was. It's been a crazy ride, and I just. I'm so thankful for the time that I got to spend there, and for the friendships that I made while I was there. They're still enduring. Nubbin and I notice each year as we go to Autumn Oaks that there are fewer and fewer people that we recognize, and there's an awful lot of people that we don't recognize. But we still love the sport of coon hunting. We love coonhound people, and that's really what it's all about, isn't it? Okay, well, we want to give you a little preview of the upcoming trip to the White River. We go each fall in November, usually. This year we're going a little earlier than normal. We're going the week prior to Thanksgiving instead of the week following Thanksgiving. The White River, for those of you who have not visited, it is officially called the Dale Bumpers National Wildlife Refuge. It's located on the White River, along the White River, in eastern Arkansas, the Arkansas Delta, very close to the state of Mississippi. It consists of 160,000 acres of bottomland timber, mainly oak and cypress, along the sloughs and lakes, and what we normally hunt around an area called Maddox Bay. And it's not the bay in terms of what you would expect to see a bay like Tampa Bay along the ocean or along a big lake. These bays are long, narrow waterways, resembling a river for sure. But been going out there now. I think this year for me will be the 15th or 16th year in a row. The first year I went was 2010. And if you're going out, the first thing you need, and I get questions all the time about the White River and people that have not been before and what's it like and this and that. The first thing that people ask is, where do you stay? Well, that is the biggest challenge, because unless you can camp, there are campgrounds. My good friend Murray Reagan, I know, camps right near where we camp. And Murray uses a travel trailer. We have a camp, a regular brick and mortar type. It's not brick, it's wood and nails. And but at any rate, there's a lot of duck hunting camps around there. If you get online and search, go to the magic Google machine and search for a lodging around St. Charles, DeWitt, Holly Grove, Clarendon, those areas, Crockett's Bluff, you'll find some lodging. I'm sure you will. But that's the main thing. You need a place to stay. Sometimes it gets pretty cool out there. I imagine the later in the year. There are 2 units. The wildlife refuge is divided into north and south units. The north unit comes in around the middle of November, and certain parts of it last all the way into January. The south unit is only open from December 1st to the 15th. So if you contact the Dale Bumpers website, you'll be able to download the brochure. They used to make us carry that brochure with us at all times, and you had to sign the back of it, but that's not a requirement anymore. But there is a map in the brochure. A lot of people ask me about transportation around the refuge. Are RVs allowed? Yes. Are they allowed everywhere? No. There are specific trails that are marked as such, and you're expected to keep your RV. You can take a side-by-side. You cannot take a small vehicle like a stripped-down Toyota truck or something like that on these trails. It's strictly for RVs and UTVs. Anyway, so basically what you'll do is you'll trailer your RV out to one of the trailheads off of one of the main gravel roads, and you hopefully have dog boxes and means to carry your hounds, and away you go. And then you've got 160,000 acres to play in. You may not drive those RVs or ATVs, not RVs, but ATVs, off the specific trails. You're not permitted just to drive out through the woods. Those big bottomlands in places would be enticing to do that. But if you get caught, they're going to ticket you. So anyway, just go by the rule, get the rule book like anything else, read the rules, go over the rules, and you'll have a good time. Again, look forward to seeing some of you out there. We'll be there at a little different time this year, the week before Thanksgiving as opposed to the week after Thanksgiving for us. Okie dokie. I've got a young dog that's just lighting my fire right now. I hope each one of you out there under my voice, under the sound of my voice, have a good young dog to go into fall with. There's just nothing more exciting than that for me. I've always enjoyed working with young dogs. Puppies are good. They're fun. They're fun to work with and watch them kind of turn on and flip the switch, as we say, and all. But there's nothing like a nice young dog that's seemingly making progress every trip that you make to the woods. And by golly, that's what my partners, Cody Fox and Mark Miller, and I have in this young dog. His name is Bearpin Fever's Ghost. Ella and I named him Boo when we brought him home. home from South Carolina when he was just a puppy, and Boo to go along with Ghost. You get it? Anyway, to see him turn on, man, this guy, he's a lot of energy, 200% energy, drive, determination, all of the above. Proved to be a natural tree dog last year when I took him to White River. Actually treed on a wild coon by himself. And, when he's gone through all the stages, he's never been a dog that wanted to just hang around. He gets that from his daddy, I think, and his granddaddy, Lazarus, Bill Schenniger's dog up there. He seems to put the go power in him. But anyway, we raised him in the house here in Florida, and then back in May decided to take him up to Mark Miller. Mark and Cody hunt together all the time. Right away, Cody really liked him and started taking him to some events, field trials, water races, bench show. He was a pain on the bench. All that energy is hard to contain it at times. Anyway, he made field champion, water champion, and show champion. And that rascal, about a week ago, there was a doubleheader there in the area where Mark and Cody live. And they took old Boo, we call him, out there and put him in the first round. Lo and behold, he won his cast with 200 plus points, and I was all excited and thought, wow, that's incredible. His very first hunt, very first cast to participate in and wins the thing. That's special. If you've tried it, you know what I'm saying. Well, lo and behold, they sneak off in the late hunt. It's a doubleheader, and repeat the process. Old Ghost wins another cast. So he's on his way, and Cody sent me a video from last night's hunt where he had treed a double by himself, and Cody's plot female Penny had split treed over near a barn there. They were hunting around the cornfields, and she had a coon too. So two real young dogs, just past a year old, split treeing, showing the proof. Now, if you're a hounds person, and especially somebody that likes to kind of follow along, have a stud dog, produce puppies, or keep track of puppies and all that. That's the stuff that lights a fire in my belly, and really, it's in many ways it's what I can do now, is watch the progress of a young dog through the eyes of younger fellows than myself, and I'm so blessed. I want to publicly thank Mark and Cody for taking these dogs that have meant so much to me for so many years and taking them out and giving them a chance. Folks, if you've got a good bred young dog, let me back up. Don't even buy a well-bred pup or a young dog if you don't intend to give that dog a chance. It's such a waste when you just put them in the kennel, feed them. You can feed them the best feed in the world, and you can pet them every day, and they'll be happy. But if you want them to be really happy and really fulfilled according to their genetic blueprint, take them hunting, give them a chance in the woods, give them a chance to be, as they say in the military, all that they can be. And so, anyway, old Ghost is really, Boo, as we call him, is really lighting my fire these days, and I just couldn't be happier about it. Well, hunting season is here. I posted a message on Facebook just this week talking about October 1st and how that generates memories for me. When I lived those 20 21 years, I believe it was, in Michigan from 1983 through most of 2004. I look forward to October 1st because that was the opening day of raccoon season up there. Now, Michigan comes in a little earlier than most of the states in the upper Midwest. I know Ohio and Indiana, Illinois all come in November. But Michigan has a fairly liberal season, but due to the climate up there, and the fact that deer season is typically the first 2 weeks of November, I believe. No, maybe it starts November 15th, I'm thinking. But at any rate, Michigan comes in October 1st. Now, the hides aren't prime at all. And of course, who hunts for hides nowadays anyway? It brings up a point that I want to make. If you're the type of guy that got interested in coon hunting, or maybe you're a guy that's been involved in it for years and years and long for the good old days, especially the younger fellows, the new hunters, learn to do this coon hunting sport the way the forebears did, those that really made a sport of hunting raccoons with hounds, and that included harvesting fur. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you go out there and kill a lot of coon and pile them up, because you're not going to get much back for your labors. There is a little stipend at a fur dealer nowadays, but it's certainly nowhere near what it used to be. But I guess the point I'm making, learn how to case skin a raccoon in the woods. Learn how to keep that pelt until you can take it to the fur buyer to properly handle it. And see if you don't, it's kind of like if you read the Foxfire books, or you read anything on Frontier Life, or when my son was in Scouts in our church, we had a group called Frontier Camping Fraternity, FCF. And these guys were really into the old muzzle loading, all the old ways that the pioneers used, camping in tents, lashing saplings and so forth together to make their facilities and their shelters and their fences and anything like that that's old school, Daniel Boone stuff. Davy Crockett, coonskin caps, all that. Well, you can have a ball, and especially with your young people, if you have kids at home, teach them, first of all, teach them gun safety, teach them how to shoot. I would suggest that you teach them with a single shot or bolt action rifle. They're always safer in that, the repeaters, throw another shell in there as soon as you shoot one. And if you don't remember to engage the safety, it could be dangerous. So at any rate, teach your children marksmanship. Teach them how to shoot. Teach them how to shoot accurately. Because when you use that firearm to take the life of an animal, you want to do it humanely. You want to be accurate when you shoot. You want to protect your dogs, because a big old gnarly raccoon hitting the ground is not something that your puppy needs to encounter, or your old dog either. Split ears and damaged eyes and all those things can happen if that raccoon is not deceased when it hits the ground. So anyway, teach them to shoot. Teach them gun safety. Oh, man, my dad pounded that into me all the time when we were out, how to properly keep my barrel pointed away from anyone else. Keep that barrel ahead of you, pointed toward the ground. Just be conscious all the time. He used to give me a fit playing with toy cap pistols and things like that, of pointing a gun at someone. It was just, safety was just rule number one at our house. And I'm sitting here in 9 more days. I'll be 79 years old, and I have survived all those years handling firearms and in the woods with other people with firearms. And I thank my dad for the safety training he gave me. So teach those kids to shoot. And then when the season comes in, they will be prepared to harvest game. So many things to tell you, to remind you of, but working hounds can be particularly, I don't really want to say dangerous, but it is dangerous at times if you don't handle your firearm correctly. In Michigan, there's a law that you cannot have a round in the chamber of your gun until you reach the tree where the dogs are treed. You can't have a round in your gun as you're walking to the tree. The reason they do this, of course, is twofold. One is safety. The other is they don't want you headlighting coons and shooting them out on the way to the dog. I saw a guy get arrested one night. I don't know if they actually ticketed him, but they had him in the car. He and his coonhound both in the back seat of a sheriff's car, because they had observed him walking down a fence road toward his treed dog, and he was shining the tree, and they assumed he was looking for coons to shoot out. That's a no-no in Michigan. So anyway, teach those kids gun safety. I always hunted, for the many years that I really hunted hard in Michigan, I hunted with a what we commonly call a .22 automatic. Now, this gun was a replica of a nylon 66. It was built by or marketed by FIE Corporation in Brazil. Or it was made in Brazil. But it looked for the world like a Remington nylon 66. And it was a great shooting gun, and I used it for many, many years until too many times not dropping it, but having it leaned up against a fence post or something, and it would fall over and crack the stock. Now, there again is a reason not to have a round in the gun. You don't want to jar it and have it go off. So at any rate, that's what I used to coon hunt with. Just used open sights for many years, and then I'd put a 3x9 variable scope on it. I bought a little Tasco golden antlers, I believe it's called, and served me well for many, many years, and it's still on my gun today. That's the rifle. I take the White River with me. I'll admit that most of the time the other guys do the shooting these days, but I have it if I need it. I use 22 long rifle hollow points. Back during the Obama years, all of us were hoarding ammunition. So I've got more 22 rounds than I could ever use, or hope I don't have to use them. But I use 22 hollow points. copper jacketed bullets. You can buy 22s, with lead points, and I'm sure those work fine. For some guys, that'd be all they ever wanted. But I like a long rifle. I like the punch that it provides, and I know out there some of you are going to want, these mini mags, or you're going to want, the ones that most of them I have nowadays, I think, are either of that description, or they're probably maybe Remington. I'm not sure. But at any rate, that was always part of the ritual at this time of year, is to, make sure I had plenty of 22 shells. I suggest you get a little pouch, a little zip pouch if you can, change purse type of thing. I have one that a friend of mine in Michigan gave me. I don't know right now, I don't have it in front of me, but there was some kind of logo on it. It's it's dirty, but it has served me well to hold my 22 shells in. And anyway, so I have a gun that uses a clip, a magazine. I use what do I use? I'll think of it just in a minute. But at any rate, that's crazy. It's not a Stevens or a Savage. It starts with an M. What is it, guys? Man, growing old is such a pain sometimes. But anyway, so that's what I used to coon hunt with. I used for many, many years an old-timer improved muskrat knife. I keep a sharpening stone with me. I've also used an old belt as a strap, or a strop, as my grandpa from East Kentucky called it, razor strop. But to keep a nice edge on there, that old timer really cuts, and you can put a real sharp edge on it, but it doesn't hold very long. As you start cutting around the head and striking against bone, you're going to dull the knife. So I keep some type of sharpener with me. Now, another thing that I use is a skinning gambrel, a little piece of tubing, a tube, probably 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. There's a cable that runs a hole in the center of the length, and it goes out to either end. There's a loop on there, put it around the raccoon's feet, and then you put it, right above the heel of the back feet, and then you can snap your dog leash on the loop that comes out of the center of that tube, and throw that over a limb on a tree, snap it together. You've got a great place to skin your coon. I advise you to learn to do that. It's a lot of fun. You start, with an incision down the inner back leg on both sides. Make a cut just above the heel of the back foot around. Then you're going to take your knife blade and make a cut around the anus, and then you're going to pull the bone out of the hide, the tailbone, I'm trying to say. So you'll need a tail stripper for that, or some guys use a couple of small limbs that they put the bone in between the two limbs, lock the bone between their index finger and their next finger, and pull that bone out. You want to get that bone all the way out of that tail. If you don't, it'll rot in there and it'll be a mess. So you want to get that bone out of there. And then you're just going to work that hide all the way down. You're working downward all the time and around the front legs. And you're going to stick your thumb in after you get it down past the elbow, so to speak, of those front legs. You're going to pull it on down to the foot. Use your knife, cut it around the ankle on either side. And then you're going to skin it on down, skin the head. Around the ears is always, can be a challenge. You want to be sure and put just a very small slit so that you don't have a great big incision there on each ear. And you can put that index finger and that next finger, middle finger, in those ears and pull them down till you get to the eyes. Then you're going to make a slit right around, right across the eyeball. And that's going to allow you to pull that hide right on down to the nose. And as you get right to the end of the nose, you're going to use your knife again to cut very closely at where the bone and the nose meet. And there you go. You're going to take that hide, shake it out a little bit. It's going to have a lot of fat on it. You're going to take that and turn it inside out and roll it up and put it in your game bag or pouch or whatever you carry to take it back home. When you get home with that, you just lay it down on the tailgate, first side out. You roll it up like you were rolling anything, rolling up a piece of material. Start with the nose, start rolling all the way to the back, to the tail. And once you've got that rolled up nicely, put it in a plastic Walmart or grocery bag, tie it down fairly close, and it's ready for the freezer. I always kept a freezer in my basement to put my coon hides in. And that's the way I kept them until it was time to go to the fur buyer at the end of the season. And then I would take them out, set them out where they could thaw. And once they were thawed, I'd unroll them. And I might take a brush like you would use on your fluffy dog or whatever, and brush the burrs, cockle burrs and things like that out of them and try to make them look fairly respectable. And then I'd take a piece of baler twine or whatever and I would kind of grade them out myself, the extra larges and the larges and the mediums and the smalls, and just run that baler twine through their eye holes. And that makes a nice bundle. Keep it where it's not so heavy that it's hard to carry. And just lay those in your vehicle or in the back of your vehicle, depending on the weather or whatever. And off you go to the fur shed. And hopefully you've got a buyer there that will give you, nowadays, probably a couple bucks for each hide. When I was selling hides, sometimes I'd get $20, $25. I got to Michigan right on the tail end of the really good fur prices. Before I got up there, they were bringing, $35, $40. And, but I didn't get any of those, but I did sell several for, $20, 25 sometimes. But then if you take coons early before the first prime, those blue hides are not going to bring you very much. And those small coon, that's where you're going to learn, just leave those kittens sitting up there. They're not going to bring you anything. But even though there's no lucrative fur market nowadays, it's still fun to get out there and go through the steps, and you'll know what your granddad did, when he coon hunted. And, you know, back in the mountains, we didn't case skin those coons like that because we really didn't sell the furs. Most of the people back there, if they had a barn or a garage or something, they skinned them up the belly, stretched them out. Back in the early days, they stretched them out in a square shape and tacked them to the barn where that hide was perfectly square. And apparently that's the way the fur houses wanted them back in that day. But I've seen many a barn back home in the hills with coon hides tacked up to the barn, stretched any which way to get that hide just as flat as they stretched as far as they could. I used something, I presume, like a roofing nail with a big head, flat head on it. But anyway, if you want to get into skinning some coon and all, that's the way you do it. Now, if you're going to prepare that coon for the table, you're going to need to take, as soon as you can, you know, take the insides out of that coon. I know a lot of people sell them just like they are in the jacket, so to speak. My dad taught me any kind of game that we were going to bring home to eat, that we field dressed it immediately. We got those entrails out, and if we could, you know, we got some cool water in there, cool leaves, whatever. But anyway, we always field dressed our game. That's the way I was taught. I don't know any other way. I would be hesitant, let's say, to eat a raccoon that somebody let lay around for a day or more, you know, with the guts in it. Not going to do it. All right. Well, I've been at you about an hour and 5 minutes here today. I had a couple more topics that I wanted to talk to you about, but I think you've probably heard me ramble here just about enough. I do want to leave with you, in memory of Charlie Kirk, the fact that if you're a Christian, stand up, be proud, tell somebody about your faith. In these times that we're living in, I don't know how people survive, much less make it through day to day, without faith in Jesus Christ. Ask him to come into your heart. He'll make a difference that you will be so thankful for. That's all the sermon you're going to get from me today. Along the line of what we've experienced in these last few days with the death of Charlie, I think most of us have gotten an awareness that we need to let the Lord take care of these problems and not to be too reactive and not to get too upset about it. And that brings up the subject of deer hunters. Now, deer hunters have a right to their seasons just as much as we do. I think for most people that deer hunt, and that's their game, they like to bow hunt and gun hunt and muzzleload hunt and all. So they've got a very extensive season. So I never felt a twinge of remorse for going on to a farm where I had permission and hunting during deer season. I knew that my dogs weren't affecting the movement of deer. I'd participated in the study in South Carolina with the South Carolina Game and Fish and Clemson University and the students there and the telemetry studies and all. And I knew from just experience over all these years that deer movements are not affected by hound hunting. I know this. So, you know, if I went and turned loose on somebody's corn pile, I didn't have any remorse about it. I certainly wouldn't do it if I had been told by that hunter not to hunt on that land. You know, if you're told, you just need to go with the flow, and unless that particular hunter doesn't actually have the permission to tell you that, and that's something you need to take up with your landowner. I saw an article just this week about the disappearance of the small farms in this country. Without small farms, our sport is gone. It's those smaller farmers, and it doesn't have to be 10 acres. Maybe he's got 300 or 500, but still, he gives us permission to run our hounds. Man, he's solid gold. We need to protect him, his rights, his wishes, as much as we possibly can. If he doesn't give us the permission, we have no permission. Keep that in mind. But when it comes to the deer hunters, if you're confronted by somebody, keep your cool. As I have, I hunted in Michigan for all those years. The very last week that I hunted up there, it was in November, and I was basically scolded or run out of the woods twice. In the whole time that I lived up there, twice in the same week. But I did keep my cool. I said, raccoon season is in. I have permission from this landowner to be here, and I'm going to hunt, and I expect you to hunt, and that's just the way it is. I'm not going to argue with you. You threatened to shoot my dog. I don't think that would be wise in any form. Just please take my word for that. That would be a very grave mistake. Just keep your cool. Talk. Don't get in a shouting match like you see on these reels on social media. Just keep your cool, and if you have your rights, speak to the landowner. Say, this guy's trying to keep me from running my hounds. If the landowner tells you not to run hounds during deer season, you have no recourse. You just simply can't do it. But just keep a cool head out there. Enjoy your hounds. Have a great season. We'll be talking some more each week as the seasons go on. Watch for my posts online and coon hunting conversations about the progress of my young dog. I'm proud of him. I know he doesn't belong to you, and you probably don't care. But if you want to see something that makes me happy, then check it out. Okay, that's going to do it for this week. I want to thank W Hunting Supply for being there for us wherever we may be, wherever we may be hunting. They've got the supplies, the items that we need. We have a breakdown in the field and we're off on a hunting trip. Call W. They'll get something overnighted to you. They'll work with you. I know this to be true. Also want to thank my good friend Mark Zepp. markzepp.com. I really like this new Eagle coon squaller that he has. I picked one up at Automos. You need to check it out. Okay, folks, if someone asks you where's Steve Fielder these days, say, well, it's October. Man, that dude is gone to the dogs.